Hello, and we are live. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. Here, joined today by my co host, Mr. Monte Silva, calling in from beautiful Florida. How are you today, Monte?
Good, good. Hey, everybody. Hi, Christian. Thanks for putting this on again today.
Awesome. So, we're really excited to talk to you a little bit. What makes a restaurant, great? So, what is the difference between good and great? And today, we're gonna oh, talk about it right after this. Hello, Christian again, and we are live. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show, and Monte, my co-host for this special edition of our podcast. We're going to talk about what makes restaurant great. So, what is the little difference or the little extra where you go from good to great? And Monte said, hands down, crafting memorable moments. And so today we're going to talk about how to craft those memorable moments, not just how to craft them, how we in the restaurant industry could become architects of memories, because that's what it's all about. So, Monte, how are you today? Thanks for calling in. I see you also have a special guest by you. So,
Yeah.
Monte, let's start out. What is your understanding around memorable moments in the hospitality industry?
Well, I think that they really have to touch on the heartstrings of people. We can provide perfect execution, and I think that people enjoy that. They want a steak knife marked before their steak comes out. They want their water glass kept full. They want their napkin, on their lap, and they want all the things, right? But it's the I think the thing that's the most memorable is when you're able to make a human connection, touch their heart, and create something memorable. And it reminds me of the best concert I ever saw was U2. They were in concert in at Vanderbilt University, and there were about 30+ thousand people in the stands. And there was one moment where the whole band left the floor of the stage, and somehow the band knew about a blind person that was in the pit who knew how to play all of the U2 songs on his guitar.
Awesome.
So they
Amazing.
pulled him up on the stage, strapped a guitar on him, and he played a very uh, almost kind of haunting ballad of U2's with just Bono singing and just the gentleman playing the guitar. Everybody else was off the stage. And of course, when they finished, everyone went crazy. But there was one moment as they were getting started where the guy said, Bono said, "Hey, are you okay?" And he goes, "I'm a little nervous." He couldn't see him. There were 30,000 people in the stands, and he said, "It's okay, buddy." And he put his arm around him. And then after the song was over, he gave the guitar to security and said, "Can you please make sure he gets home with this guitar?" And he gave him a guitar. And so
That is
it's those
amazing.
kinds of, I couldn't even tell you, you know, what songs were on that set list, but I'll always remember that moment. And I think that we don't think that we have opportunities to craft those kinds of experiences in the restaurant, but we certainly do.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. For us, when we work with our teams, we drive home. It's the little things. It's the basics. When you walk in the front door, no fingerprints on the front door. Just clean. You walk in, great atmosphere, no clutter. Get rid of clutter. Make sure it's easy, comfortable for them to go in there. And then when it comes to food, back to the basics: hot food, hot; cold food, cold. The atmosphere, the way the waiter comes and greets him, and how they serve the beverages. And then when the food shows up, the food is, for me, the confirmation that this is a great dining experience. And that's something we always teach our team. But there's something you touched upon just a few minutes ago. You talked about how to emotionally engage your guest, and not just the guest, but guests' loyalty. What does this look like for you?
Well, I think that we have to do everything we can using tech and other things to figure out how to craft these experiences. And so, one of the things I did when I was working at some of the higher end restaurants is I would take a very close look at Open Table or whatever platform we were using for reservations. And it's interesting to me that we tend to put the least experienced people in the industry, the least paid, at the front door,
Mm.
um, and and then we wonder why we don't have someone thinking along the lines of how can I make this person's experience incredible. So I took a very active approach to monitoring um, the reservation book and looking to see, trying to find out what's going on, why are they coming in, and what can I do to make it special for them. So I'll give you a couple examples. If somebody said, hey, it's our first date with my husband since he came home from serving overseas, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
The mom and children have been away from the dad, or the family's been away from the mom while they're serving overseas, and it's a special opportunity for them, and they don't want a really chatty, you know, server. They want to be tucked in a corner, have a chance to catch up, be romantic, enjoy one another, and so I look for where am I going to put that person and what kind of server is best going to execute that. And I would write the floor plan based on that kind of criteria. Um, Another one is, mom and dad are going out for the first time since the baby was born. The mom has been spit up on and, you know, not wearing makeup, not taking a shower, taking care of the baby is the priority, and finally gets to dress up, be a woman, put on makeup, be romantic and enjoy time alone with, the father of her child. And that's another tuck them in a corner, don't want someone super chatty experience. But then you've got, the bachelorette party, and you want, party Monte selling shots and making the bachelorette party or the bachelor party feel, like, hey, it's party time, right? If someone's celebrating a special occasion, bringing them a couple glasses of champagne. That happened to me. My wife and I went to Ocean Prime last year for our 16th, 15th wedding anniversary, and they knew that it was an anniversary, and they did the nice little flutes of champagne, which is cool. A lot of people do that. I do that, but they also had rose petals on the table, and it was a really cool experience for my wife to walk up and see that. And so I think whenever we can create those kinds of experiences, Danny Meyer has something he calls, he has a position called the dream catcher, and
Mm.
their job is to look at reservations and figure out how they can just take it over the top. And I think that's important.
Uh, Absolutely spot on. There's nothing I can add to that because what you just said, if you bring it all together, you know what? That leads to repeat business. And then for me, this is positive word of mouth. And that's for me what it's all about. But it starts in the beginning, and you touched upon that a little bit. How is the customer being greeted? Again, no fingerprints on the door. Is it a comfortable temperature? Not too hot, not too cold. Does it smell when you come in there? Is it, clutter free? And then, also, how is that person behind the front desk or the hostess stand greeting me? Are they looking professional? Are they making eye contact? Are they greeting me properly? All of those little things. Um, and you said about that position about the dream catcher. For me, is how do you empower hospitality staff? Because that's not a sometimes not a learnable skill. Hospitality for me, I think you're born with it or not. And you pick it up really quick if it comes natural to somebody or not. But how can you empower your staff to have that mentality of that dream catcher or that mentality of, I just go that extra step above and beyond to make it a memorable experience?
Yeah, I think you need to hire that. I talk about this a lot. When you hire an employee, if you think of them like a seed, you know, and the soil is your culture, right? Whatever your culture is, whatever you're trying to grow, you're looking for a seed that's going to thrive in that kind of environment. And so, if your culture is based on hospitality, then what you need to do is find people that are hospitable. And so, when I interview, I don't ever really start off with their resume. I ask them, "Who are you? Where'd you grow up? You have brothers and sisters. What do you like to do when you're not working?" And I did that actually when I opened Jeff Ruby's in Nashville. Um, I had 260 something resumes for server positions for a new restaurant with 28 openings. And so I put them in order of most experienced to the bottom. And so the top had people 20 years serving in a steakhouse, second level Psalm certification, super high credentials, all the way down to the brand new, Applebee's level kind of service experience. And I interviewed in the order of their resume, but I was a good 100 plus interviews in before I captured my 28, because I started off with, "Who are you?" I wanted to find out, is this someone that I'm going to have to babysit and get them to do these things that we need, or are they going to come naturally? And so, um, you know, it's interesting that this is a similar story about the blind, but there was a guy named Clinton, and he, when I interviewed him, uh, I said, "What do you like to do when you're not working?" And he said, "Well, I do volunteer with the blind." And that kind of heart is who you want in a restaurant, and you really don't
Mhm.
have to navigate through that if you hire that kind of person. So if you want hospitality, you got to find hospitality people. And
Yeah, I love that.
so between doing that and then setting the example by, curating the guest experience from the information you've collected on Open Table, really helps you kind of do that.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in the hotel business, and my dad um, had that ability. We had those little, the little note cards. We had them lie everywhere. And one thing he always taught our staff was, when they say something which is insignificant for you, make sure you write it down. And it could be as simple as, they have this little dog, and you know what? They just got the dog, or the dog was just sick. And we wrote it down on those little note cards. And when they came to check in, it was the front desk person's job to read up on him. So when they came in and they said, "Hey, Monte, how you doing? And I heard, your mom was at your house for the last few days, and she's leaving in a few days." It gives you that emotional connection. It's just going that little bit above and beyond. And for me, my best story of that is, I live in a fairly small town, 20,000 people. And we have 5 dry cleaners. But there's one dry cleaner. We call it the little dry cleaner because it's not a national brand. It's just a mom and pop place. Italian people with Italian background. And for me, I traveled quite often, and I was really hard on my knife bag, the handle on my knife bag. And I loved that knife bag. And one day, by conversation, as I brought in my uniforms, I said to her, "Oh, I love that knife bag. Just wish somebody could make me a handle, because I love that bag." She says, "I'll bring it over." I look at it, and didn't think about it. A few weeks later, I come there and I pick up my uniform. She says, "I have a gift for you." And she had this box. And then she brings me this box, and she opens it up like it's this really, amazing thing. She has Raphael on it, and she unfolds it. There's my bag in it. And she hands it to me, and she says, "Look, I was able to create a handle for you." And it wasn't just saying, "Hey, I did a handle for you, I charge you $35. It was just the way she presented. And you could see on her face that, she loved doing that. Not just did she love doing it, I mean, she went above and beyond. She treated it like this bag was brand new. I mean, it had, holes on the bottom, but the way she presented it to me, for me, we never went to any other dry cleaner. It was just, for
Yeah,
me, one of, those steps of service, and we talk about here in the hospitality sector, but that service or that step of hospitality, that's cross industry. That goes for anything. And for me, I tell the story all the time because the way she handed my bag, it just floored me because she cleaned it up. She says, "Hey, I did this. I fixed this side. I did this. But what do you think of my handle?" And amazing. I will never forget that. And I think that's now 15 years ago. And I still tell that story.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a situation. I was running a restaurant at a hotel in Nashville, and there was a man in the lobby crying, a grown man, and my hostess went up to him and said, "Hey, are you okay?" And if you think about it, most of us will kind of like shy away from those kinds of experiences. Hey, we want to give him his space, or hey, we don't feel comfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable to go up and approach this person. We don't really know what they're going through, and so most people would just kind of ignore it, right? And not go up there. But she went up there and she asked, and he shared that he was there to see a band. Um, it was his son's favorite band. They had bought tickets previously to go to this, and his son was recently killed in a car wreck, and so he went to the concert by himself.
Mhm.
And so the hostess told the manager, one of my managers, and we ended up letting the front. We found out that the band was actually staying in our hotel, and we worked it out to where uh, he got a bunch of signed merchandise from the band, and he got to go backstage and meet the band. And it was something that he told our people that this is the coolest thing that anyone's ever done, and he'll always remember that. And it really made an impact. And he said, whenever I'm traveling to Nashville, I'm going to come eat in this restaurant. And it's those kinds of experiences that we talk about the situation with the U2 concert, but we have opportunities. Most people are either, especially if it's a nice restaurant, they're not just coming to eat. They're
Yep.
coming to either celebrate life or forget about life. And it's an opportunity to celebrate when they're celebrating, and it's an opportunity to just be kind. When they're struggling with something, we don't know when people sit down, they just lose their job or they're going through a divorce, and so it's important for us to ask questions and try to figure out why they're there, and then try to create these human connections.
I love that. For us in the restaurant, there was something we did quite often, and we called it the guest journey from pre-arrival to post-departure. And how, we always mapped it out, and we said, on which points can we make an impact and how can we make a difference? It's when the kitchen runs a little bit long with an appetizer. How can we make that experience great? Also, not just from a service perspective, how can we treat the customer differently? And there's that skill. I was always taught it's almost like military. You want to see everything, but you don't want to be seen. And sometimes there is a guest coming in, and they don't want you to be seen. They want you to be back because they have business to take care of, or they want to just have some alone time. How do you teach that? And I know there's technology stuff you could do out there, but that's something which needs to be done by human interaction. How do you teach those small nuances between, you know, being in a customer's face or just providing that experience and provide great service without interrupting what they dare to do?
Yeah, I think just hiring people that are socially aware,
Mhm.
that have some social skills, some soft skills to be able to read the situation. I think having pre-shifts where you're going through the reservations for the night and talking about each table
Yeah.
is important, and then just paying attention. There was I don't know. Did you ever watch that show, The Bear?
I did. I did.
So, you remember the episode when the Bear's brother's best friend went to 11 Madison Park to work for stage on the
I
floor?
did. I did.
And then do you remember when the server standing in the corner listening to their table overheard someone say, "Wow, this dinner was fantastic, blah, blah, blah." But then they said, "The only bummer about this trip is we're leaving tomorrow morning and we didn't get a chance to get Chicago style pizza," right? And
Mhm.
they were saying that to each other at the table. They were not telling the server that. The server writes a little note down, goes and gives it to the maitre d', and he goes and orders a pizza from another restaurant and then drops it as they're paying their check and said, "Hey, thank you so much for coming. We're so glad you chose us. We realized by choosing us, you didn't get a chance to have Chicago style pizza before you left. So here you go." And so it's just, awareness and paying attention. If you're off in the corner looking at your phone or talking to another server about where you're going to go party after work, then you're not engaged in that experience and opportunity.
Yeah.
And then I think that, managers touching tables is critical. If you're not on the floor during service, then I don't know what you're doing, because that's where your business is, and you should not be in an office conducting, financial conversations.
Totally agreed. And you touched upon something earlier, which you called it the pre-meal. Um, do you see in your experience that restaurants which are highly successful do certain things like a pre-meal consistently than others which don't?
Yeah, I think that we all challenge ourselves. We're trying to cut labor, so we're bringing people in at different times, and we're staggering in times, and then we're trying to figure out how can we do a pre-shift, um, you know, meeting beforehand when half the staff isn't there. And so, if you're in that position, then at least having a sheet that you can then go post in the kitchen so anyone coming in later can see what's going on, reservation sheet, flow of the dining room, whatever, so that someone can catch up is good. But whenever possible, I prefer everybody comes in at the same time, everybody sets the room, everybody sits down and has a family meal, and then everyone goes through the
Mhm.
night. um,
Yeah.
and I think when you can do that, it's a
I
huge difference in how you execute.
I couldn't agree with you more. And for me, I wanted to take it a step further. I think it's a great way to educate, your staff around something new. It's also a great way for a manager to reconnect, because sometimes, we are busy managing things, but get to reconnect with the people which are the face of your operation. And then for me, finally, I always encourage people to share a little bit more, share where we at with sales, share where we at with some of the stuff. Because for me, what is really important, I want my service, my staff to know that they're part of something bigger, and not just asking them to clock in and clock out. I think those days are gone. And for me, by doing this, and we do it even here, first thing in the morning, we call the morning huddle for 15 minutes. Hey, this was going on. This is what we want to do today. What is our goal for the day? And I think it brings everybody on the same page, and it allows you to kind of not just reconnect, you kind of get to get other people's opinion on it. And because there's no bad opinion. And for me, when I go into restaurants, and sometimes we go early for a reason, because if you go early and you ask, hey, what is the special today? And this is, oh, that's a really good question. I haven't asked the chef. Exactly. It's got to be a rough dining experience, because those little things for me, I think, are a pivoting point of having a restaurant go from good to great.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point. Um, Nobody wants a talking head to stand up for 20 minutes and do all
Mhm.
the talking. You want to keep people engaged and part of something, right? And then the final thing that I like to see happen in these pre shifts is actually acknowledging things that are going on that are great. So maybe reading some, online reviews that are 5 stars that mention somebody
Mhm.
by name. When I'm training and developing people, I'll read through the the good ones and the not so good ones, and I'll say, okay, did we fail in service or did we fail in hospitality?
Hmm.
Fail in mindset or did we fail in skill set? Did we fail in the product quality or did we fail in caring about the guest?
Hmm.
Um, and so it gets people thinking about the whole experience and how that operates.
I love that. You hear me talk about this all the time. I call it the feedback loop. The feedback loop. And that feedback loop is not just the customer, that's the employee, where the employee has the empowerment to come in and say, the kitchen kind of pushed us a little bit. The dinners came out fast and I couldn't provide the level of service I wanted to, or the kitchen was a little slow. For me, I think that feedback loop is super important. And, our philosophy, no bullshit, no ego, no lie. And if you take this out of the way, it's really easy to get proper feedback, but it should be actively used feedback. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. If it comes from an employer, if it comes from a guest, or if it comes by somebody just walking by, it needs to become that it's actively being used and that we're actually doing something about it. Because if we act on it, it shows my employees that we care about it. Not just do they know that we care about it, they know that we care for the people they care for. And for me, at the end of the day, there's nothing better than that. And I always love what you say. There's a difference between service and hospitality. And for me, what we talking about here is simple steps anybody can take any day to make it great. I have to bring my car to the dealer on Thursday, and I'm looking forward going to that dealer. Even though it's a car dealer, they have customer service down. They call me by my first name. They go in, they know exactly what I want to drink. I always love going there because it's an event. It's fun to be there. It's a little more pricey, but it's a fun place to go
Yeah,
to.
you're
And
paying
for
for the
me,
experience.
yeah, and we talk about this all the time. I wish that some of the businesses out there taking some notes on what the hospitality industry does because it could make their experience or their business so much better.
Yeah. I like what Chris Frawley says in the comments. Information is given,
Mhm.
communication is getting through. So, I think that when we can communicate, and that's not just saying words, right? Information is data. Communication is connecting with the audience, and so when you're having these pre-shift or huddles or whatever we call them these days, um, focusing on that interconnectivity of conversation with the team is super important. And
Yeah.
Chris knows that. Chris has been in the industry a super long time. He's a friend of mine. He lives down in Bradenton area and has ran restaurants as director of ops and a lot of other things for 30 plus years.
Awesome. Yeah, Chris, thanks for that feedback. I absolutely love that. And if you just come across this stream, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Shift Entrepreneur Show. I'm joined here by my good friend and business partner, Monte Silva. So we putting this on. We have an exclusive group we call the Disruptive Chef Club. So this is the club version of our conversation where we go a little bit more deeper and where we tackle one new thing every Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. So please mark it down. We live every Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. And where we kind of go a little bit deeper on some of those conversations and share some experiences. I'm more of a back of the house guy. Monte is a front of the house guy, and the benefit and the winner is the customer. So with that, if you're new, make sure you like this, share this with a friend, and if there's something you hear which kind of perks your interest, act on it, because information without taking action on it is nothing. You don't know it. So before we wrap up, I want to talk to you a little bit more about where do you think all of that sense of hospitality is going moving forward, with AI, with robots, and all of the stuff going into our industry. Where, from your perspective and the conversations you have in the marketplace, where do you see that going in the short future and even in the longer future? Where do you think this is heading?
I think it depends on the form of service that we're providing. If it's a drive-through, if Taco Bell has an AI person that's taking my order, and when I get up to pay, I don't have to wait for the person to take somebody else's order. I can just pay them. They're ready to
Mhm.
take my money, and the order's accurate. Um, I could care less if it's AI taking my order. It's not a personal experience. I'm looking at a box, right? Um,
Mhm.
so in fast food, we're looking at quick, right? And we're looking at accurate, and we're looking at hot. So um, if AI can provide, you know, accurate, hot, and and fast, then why not use that in that kind of a setting? I think that there's opportunities. There's a guy that's doing fully automated robotic pizza places. You're working on some robotic stuff with Starbucks. I think that there's opportunities for AI and robotic
Mhm.
tech to play a part in our industry. Even some casual, if I go to a baseball game here in Tampa, there's a kiosk, and I can order from 10 different food vendors, place my order at once. It goes to all 10 different places, and then I could pay once, and then I just go pick it up. Now, for me, that's fantastic. I don't have to go get a hot dog over
Mhm.
here for my son, and go get a salad over here for my wife, and go get a burrito over here for me. And so I think that when we can use AI tech for things like that, it's fantastic. Never a big fan of when Chili's came out with a kiosk on the table. I feel
Mhm.
like full service deserves full service.
I love that. Um, when I go out with my friends and I have these conversations around AI and robotics, they all feel that there's a price point. If you hit that price point, you cannot have a person. If it's below that price point, I'm okay with a busboy server being a robot. Do you see this with your conversations as well?
Yeah, I think that we're talking about sense of value, right? And so it doesn't really matter what the price point that you're paying is, as long as it is less than the value of what you're getting. And so it's just like, I heard, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that a $10 bill is worth zero until you spend it. It's just a piece of paper, right? So I think that we value things based on what we pay for them. And if we are underwhelmed with the value, we won't think that what we paid was worth what we got. And anytime you're paying at a certain high level, yeah, it might be Kobe beef, you got to pay more for. But if it doesn't taste that much better, is it worth the price?
Yeah.
Same thing with, if you're being served and you're paying more for service and you're tipping, then there's a certain level of expectation. And if you're not delivering above that, then you're not feeling the value of the experience. And I feel like hospitality and the human connection is a major part of that value.
I absolutely agree. And I look at this as we wrap up this conversation that at the heart of hospitality lies it's really genuine connection. It's that every positive interaction, every thoughtful gesture, every smile, all those simple things can make an unforgettable experience for a guest. So I think what we need to do at the end of the day comes back for us. We need to empower employees to deliver those little moments because they will add up and they have that ripple effect into satisfaction and loyalty beyond just a great meal.
So really quick,
Mhm.
so I know that there's opportunity for you, as a chef, to be able to provide hospitality to the back of the house team. Do you have any tidbits of words of wisdom for the back of the house of how to take care of one another?
For me, what
Besides not having to sit on a pickle barrel and eat your meal in 4 minutes.
Um, for me, it was we all one team, and we all carry each other. And you can't be successful in anything if not everybody has a key position. For me, I grew up being a soccer guy. And for me, I always refer back running a kitchen is like soccer. You need somebody who is the front face, who is the front runner, who is the face of all of that. But you need the guy in the back, which is the defense. Make sure that all the things that they can rectify it without the customer ever seeing. So it's 100%, it's a team effort. And for me, I'm also not a big fan of the whole tipping process. We compensate our staff above what they do, and some of the key players are all at the end of the day part of the profit margin. And so for us, anybody, if you're a chef or general manager, you get a portion of the profits of the organization, and that's how we do it. And for me, treat, because without great back of the house or front of the house, and if they can't get along, sometimes you need a long pass and sometimes you need the short pass, but you need to do it as a group.
We should talk about that next week. How the front and the back work together
Mhm.
to for the same common goal, but we have different duties and stuff. We should make that a show.
Absolutely. So, if you just listened in, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. I'm here joined by Monte Silva, my partner and co host in this. And we want to have these conversations for you if you are in the industry. And hopefully, there's a thing or two you heard today, which going to help you to run a successful business tomorrow. What I love about these conversations is that's not something Monte or I read about. This is something we had to go through. And I started out, my wife is very kind that she points it out to me all the time. She said, your very first restaurant, you were an idiot, the way you treated everybody. Because I had the famous saying, a good waiter never walks empty handed. If you have nothing in your hand, hold on to your ass cheeks, but never, ever walk empty handed. It's not the way you want to run a restaurant today. So for me, it was a learning curve. And so the reason I can share that today, because I was the guy which, said, hey, the kitchen is better than the front of the house. And without, us, you have nothing to do kind of thing. But in order really to make it work, the only way it works is as a team. It doesn't work front against back and vice versa.
Yeah, that's great.
So if you haven't seen this yet, please bookmark this episode or share it with a friend or somebody who you feel can benefit from this conversation. Also, if you haven't done so, please join the Disruptive Chef Club community. You get me and Monte all the time. And Monte is actually, can I share a little bit about your ebook you're launching in a few days?
Sure.
So what we will do is we have a few different ebooks, and then for you being part of this exclusive club, you will get the book before anybody else. And then not just that, we give you a version you can actually print out and use. And for me also, when we create new tools and strategies within our group, that group is the first one to get it, because you are our client, you're our guest, and we want to make sure we get your feedback. We talked about that feedback loop. You give us good feedback, we make sure we can make this conversation better. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Monte, any closing words of wisdom for us?
No, you said it all. Good job.
Thank you.
I love listening. I mean, I love our conversations. It's it's a lot like, remember when we used to get off work and we'd go get a beer or something, and we just
Mhm.
talk about the industry, and this is cool just to sit and have a great conversation with you.
Yeah. And again, it's real world experience. It's not something we read about, we heard, we actually lived it. And if anybody is in that spot, reach out. Mandy and I are more than happy to help. So with that, if there's no other things for you today, Monday, I want to say thanks for being here today. To our listeners, you have us live here every Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, remember to disrupt not just your kitchen, disrupt your restaurant, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur host, joined here by my co-host, Mr. Monte Silva. We got it for today. We're signing off. Be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we see you next month.